right on time. I know, did that hurt? Happy 4th of July. So we're on here today, like usual, every Thursday. And today we're talking about something amazing. We're discussing the 8 kind of must-know things about website hosting and security. So if you don't know me, I'm Pip. I run Seymour Digital Media over here on Vancouver Island, and we help people understand search and social. And with me is my cohort and friend extraordinaire, Greg. Greg, introduce yourself. I have your sound on. And guys, if you have any sound issues, let us know. Greg.
Hey everyone, my name's Greg. I'm with Original 72 Creative, and we are a full-service website graphic design and digital marketing firm in Vancouver.
Now I have turned Greg right up because the sound might be different, but that should work well. So today we're talking, let me put us both on screen. There we are. Today we are talking about this topic because we went through this months ago, didn't we, Greg? And we found that we couldn't get through everything you need to know about websites.
We originally had, I don't know, there was like at least 45 or 46 points in this original one that we did. So
right, a lot of points. So it was good. So today we're going to get on here. Phelan saying the sound is great. Thank you, Phelan. And I can't see who else is here, but if you're here and joining us, let us know because we want to know your opinions on this stuff. If you have something to contribute, let us know. But we're going to get right into it. This is going to be a more Q&A style because Greg is the expert here and I am the learner. And because we're all learning, so hopefully this hits you guys right where you need to know stuff. Anyway, Greg, we're talking about website stuff, which is your expertise. And I want to know the first thing. Okay, so we're going to touch on these 8 topics. But for a well-rounded view, I mean, we have a lot of people that manage their own websites. And because they're just starting out. And they don't know what to look for. And then we have the business owners that get duped, that end up, maybe this doesn't happen so much anymore, but, somebody else buys their hosting and their domain for them. So, which is, kind of a security risk. Anyway, that being said, so we're targeting all these people. Grim is here today. Hey, Grim. And the first topic is good and reliable hosting. It says here, aim for higher than standard hosting. Can you first explain? I know this is going to be really simple, but let's touch on the soft points. Can you explain what hosting is, Greg?
yeah, and it's unfortunate Grim's joining because she'll probably rip me apart for some of my hosting.
That's good.
She's a big advocate of one who, I would say aim higher for, but again, we sort of have a little bit different of a clientele, and there's hosting packages for everybody, right? So in general, hosting is where everything lives. Your website files, your domain is going to be pointed to the host. A lot of times your email is with the host. So the first and foremost, you need to reserve a domain name. And you can do that at any registrar, or you can even register a domain name with a host company that you will host with. And then once you have a domain name, you need to set up hosting, and the hosting will give you space on a server or your own server, depending on which way you go. And basically, your website and your email will all live in that spot on that server.
Interesting. So you're saying with hosting, you should get email. That's what I heard in there. And it'll hold all your web files.
Not good. A lot of hosts do have hosting. You can, like most of the shared hosting plans that you can get have it's website hosting and email hosting. You can always decide, I want better email hosting, and host your email at a different service, and you just have to point your email records to whichever service you're wanting to use. But most shared hosting has email also included.
Okay. And you're saying here now we use shared hosting over here, and we do have to transfer over. But why do you recommend that over? And what type of business owner am I now if I'm choosing my own hosting versus shared? What is shared hosting?
Well, I would recommend shared hosting for people who are looking for cheaper hosting. They don't have a large budget, and maybe their website is just small and they don't need something as optimized as what you would get from a more dedicated hosting server where it's not you have your all of your stuff in its own place and not on a server with tons of other people who have sites on that server. The shared hosting plans are always cheaper, and you're always sharing a server with many other sites, and you have no idea what sites these are. They could be big sites. They could be sites that maybe are questionable and spam, leaving you open to possibly having the IP of that server blacklisted, and possibly, and if you have your email on that same server too, causes major email problems.
Have you ever
Uh,
seen any problems?
I've seen problems on shared servers for sure.
Interesting. And you don't
Yeah.
have shared. Well, so tell me about the cost. I know, but the cost of the difference between shared and I should
But
mention. Oh,
the
go on.
shared hosting companies that I'm most familiar with or will recommend to companies is SiteGround, DreamHost, and Bluehost.
Okay.
They're all very similar. They have slightly different rates, and the packages may differ slightly, but they're all generally about the same, and they're all relatively close in cost as well. So for most of these, the smallest package you're looking maybe at $399 US a month,
Mm.
um, which gives you one site, email, maybe limited disk space. Now, if you go up like maybe one level from that, all of a sudden, sometimes you can get unlimited traffic, unlimited email, unlimited disk space, and unlimited websites and stuff like that. And for me, I have a DreamHost account where I have unlimited sites, and it's great for me because I will use that to create development sites that I can work on, set up and work on, and show a customer at a development domain. And so I'm not having to pay extra to set up additional WordPress sites that I'm going to start developing for
Mm.
customers. And I can set them up at a specific domain and share that with the client so that they can go and see how the development's going, how the design looks, and things like that. So there is a purpose for being able to use those and have it not break the budget. But I always try to get customers to aim higher than shared hosting. Hosting in general, even when you're talking about shared hosting to a more reputable one, you're looking at very minimal cost of the overall website, right? So
Okay.
even if you're paying $25 a month, if you calculate that out, it really is not your major cost factor in creating or maintaining a website. And
Mm.
that's why I always try to push customers to be like, yeah, you can go cheap. There is really cheap hosting over here, and it will work for you. It might be a little bit slower, and it's on your shared server, could have problems. But like this here, for an extra 100, for an extra $200 a year, you have a little bit more peace of mind in some of those better hosting solutions.
Interesting, interesting. So Grimace is jumping on here and saying you have different hosting recommendations. Julia's joined us. Hey, Julia, and grimacing reverse IP address is a good way to check who you share, but it's not always accurate. Interesting. I did not know that. And Grim is also saying yes, dream hosting. We probably have to change our hosting. Now, I probably have some other additional questions for you, Greg, on the side that I'll ask because we can get sidetracked easily. But okay,
Sure.
so hosting is super important. If you have questions for hosting or need answers, it looks like Grim and both Greg can give you good directions. Always good to get two opinions. So Kyla's joined us. Hey, Kyla, welcome. And we're talking about websites and the hosting and security things you need to know. So, Greg, number two. Number two is SSL certificate for your website. Ooh, and can I interject here? There's a company that's trying to steal business from me for SEO, and they don't have an SSL certificate. And I'm like, what? Because that's weird if you're a SEO company, just saying. So, Greg, SSL, what's that?
Yeah, an SSL certificate is something that will keep your website more secure and also do better for the Google because now that you're serving your site under an SSL, they will look more favorably on those types of sites and rank you better in organic.
Mm,
SSL certificates are there. There's a wide range. You can get wildcard SSLs for quite cheap, and sometimes some of the shared hosting plans will have an SSL certificate included. And depending on what you're doing for your site, those could be, perfect for you.
mm,
If you're running an e-commerce site and you're taking transactions, you might want to look at one that's a little bit higher up and that you have to go through a little bit of a process to get. They're slightly more expensive,
mm.
uh, but typically I want to say the range is probably. I mean, they go up. They could go up pretty high, but I think you could get a pretty good reputable one for between $80 to $200,
Mm.
and that's per year.
Yeah. And you just
If,
ask
if
your hosting company, right?
they'll be available at your hosting company. You can also get them with the actual SSL provider, and then just install the SSL keys at
Mm.
the host.
Isn't that
But
harder?
for most people, the easiest way is to just go into your host and see what their SSL options are. Because a lot of the time they will just be able to, you'll be able to order it, and it will be installed automatically for you, and there'll be minimal work for you to do to make sure that SSL loads on your site. Because
Mm.
there would be some things you might have to do to your site to make sure it loads on the SSL certificate and not at the non-SSL version.
Okay. Okay. So that sounds like it might be confusing and just to maybe go to your host. But the reason it's important is because it makes you more secure.
It encrypts the data flowing back and forth from user to the site and vice versa.
Mm.
Yeah.
Grim is saying DreamHost does. I like that explanation, Greg. That's really helpful. Can you repeat that?
The SSL certificate basically encrypts the data flowing to and from the site between the user and the website.
Mm. And that is helpful because it creates a secure environment for the user. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for sure. The user, if the user is supplying sensitive information,
Mm.
the transport of that information from their computer up to the website will be encrypted. Nobody will be able to see that in when it gets transferred.
Right? So, and in Google, guys, sometimes it'll say like not trusted website if you don't have it. And it's got a little lock beside the HTTPS. You want a HTTPS there. So, something to do. And if you're not doing it, think about that. If you have questions, ask Greg about that because he's here to help people. He's here to help. Okay, Greg. Now, so we're getting deep into it. We're on number three. Number three is configure a security plugin with backups, theme security, or Wordfence. So it seems like you have some plugin recommendations for
Yeah,
security.
security, like I mean, everybody knows WordPress is the most common CMS out there. So it's naturally like Windows, it is the thing that people target most on the web to try to get access to. So making sure you have good security in place to protect your site, um, and as well having a backup solution. A backup solution can also be provided by the host. So if your host has a backup solution and it's doing that for your site, you don't need to install a plugin
Mm.
to do more backups. But check that with your site and see and just make sure there are backups, because if something did happen to your site, someone did hack in and change things, you would at least be able to go back to a backup from the host or one that you've been creating.
I, I have seen a couple hacks, and I know you almost got hacked last week, or some bot was trying to break in, and it can be really painful. To be honest, even though we do backups, we use Updraft. Um, we because we back it up every month, we couldn't actually find where they got into the site when we had an issue, and we had to go through the code. So, but when a hosting company takes care of it, they'll figure it out for you, because that's what you're paying for. So I do recommend that a little bit, unless you're using Greg. Yeah, because then you can do the work.
That's number three is one of those things that I have as a service to my customers.
Mm,
I will maintain all of the software updates, plugin updates, install a security plugin and a backup plugin, a
mm,
premium plugin for both,
okay,
and make
that's
sure the site is
secure all the time,
protected and secure as much as possible. Yeah.
and that's a small yearly fee, isn't it? Yeah,
Um, it's
wrapped up.
$700 after tax.
Yeah, totally.
So
Right when you're deep into the business. So Grim is asking, do you use What is
managed
this?
WP.
Yeah, what's that?
I do not use managed WP. I believe I've heard of it. I believe it's something where you can manage multiple WordPress installs. So
Mm.
because I have so many people on mine, and Grim can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's what it is. It's so you can manage multiple WordPress installs from one interface.
So yeah, okay. Security, and like security is a big deal, because we don't want to think about this. And I know some of my clients are like, why do I have to pay? Like, we charge a very nominal fee to back up plugins, or to update plugins and update the theme, because it's important and it's a security risk, right? But Wordfence, we use that. Would you say you like that over iTheme security? I know, big question right there.
I'm an iTheme security guy over Wordfence.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
maybe Grim has another suggestion other than those two, but those two are the most common, I believe.
Okay.
Wordfence is free. There's a free version, I believe, and probably there's a paid pro version as well. iTheme security is only paid.
Oh,
You have to buy iTheme security from iThemes.
that's interesting, isn't it? Okay, okay, we're on, guys. We gotta keep going. Grim says iTheme security for me too. Awesome, that is helpful. Greg, we're on. Okay, so security plugins, use them is what I'm hearing. There's a
Hmm.
variety of options, but make sure you have them on your site, right? Even the free one, if you can't afford a paid one.
Yeah, anything's better than nothing.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. And okay, so then we have number 4: protect your website against spam. Askmet and CAPTCHA. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Akismet and CAPTCHA.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you go. Akismet, guys. I am really bad with pronunciation.
Akismet is one that's from WordPress.org. So if you have a WordPress.org account, you can connect with them, set up Akismet, and it will protect your site from getting comment spam and things like that,
Okay.
which is really helpful because that is a big annoyance for a lot of people who have WordPress blogs is keeping those comment spams out. Um,
Don't people use that as, or it used to be used as a way to bookmark or get some link juice? No longer is it effective, right? Because I think they do no follow links generally.
yes,
All
yeah,
right, that's some SEO stuff for you guys. Grim is saying I use anti-spam B. Oh, I like the name of that actually.
yeah. I've heard of anti-spam bee. It's a type of captcha.
Okay, and yeah, so
And
I mean,
so a CAPTCHA, for anybody that isn't familiar with the term CAPTCHA, CAPTCHA is basically that thing on a form when you go to fill out and then submit, and you have to fill in some word in a graphic, or
mhm.
you have to answer some type of a quiz or math, you know, question before you can submit. That's what a CAPTCHA is.
To protect you from spam. I like that. Okay, and how do you pronounce the first one again that I butchered so readily?
A kismet?
A kismet. So it's not okay. It's not what I said.
No. There's
I,
also I've been using on my sites what's called a honeypot.
oh,
And what a honeypot is a way to add an extra hidden field in the
oh,
form, because most of these people that fill in forms are robots, right? So they'll find a form and they'll automatically fill it in and submit it. So these bots will find forms and fill them out with whatever it is they're trying to get to you. And the honeypot is this hidden field named whatever that, if filled in, the form won't submit. And that stops the bots, because the bots don't know that it's not supposed to be filled in.
mm. So does it tell like the human not to fill it in?
No, they don't see it because it's hidden.
Ah, interesting,
The
interesting.
human would never fill it in, but a bot would, because they don't know any better.
And is that like part of a plugin?
Um, the contact forms that are available, like contact form 7, and I believe Ninja forms, they probably all have a honeypot option. But if they don't, there may be a separate plugin that you can install that will add that type of functionality to it, so that you could set it up on your forms.
Interesting, and I love the name. I gotta tell you, I just want to use it because of the name. I know, so weird, kind of girly maybe, but I'm all about
Honeypot and Spamby.
Spamby. That's awesome. Okay, okay, we're running out of time. We got 8 minutes. We're gonna get through it. Grim, make sure you're piping in here to these things Greg's saying, because I love what you're saying. Greg or Grim just said honeypot is good too. And Greg, we are now on to ad site caching. Can
Hmm.
you please explain that?
So site caching is a feature where the website images, style sheets, and other information of your site is going to be stored and served from a cache, as opposed to it coming from the server every time. So when you call up a website, you type in the domain name, and the request goes out, finds where that domain points to. That points to a server. It says, give me the files for this website, and it shoots it back and displays it on your browser.
Okay.
So that process, when you do that, will it will have to pull the server, say, give me the files, and then load them and send them back and load them. Whereas what will happen with the caching is those files that get used and not changed very often, like a CSS file, JavaScript files, instead of them always coming from the server, they'll come from a cache. So they'll load much quicker, and a caching plugin will allow you to speed up your website.
Smart. Okay, so a good thing for SEO. And so if you're working on your own site, you have to clear that cache sometimes so you can actually see the changes. Grim is saying Elementor has a form option for Honeypot, and she uses WP fastest cache. I don't even know what I use.
Yeah.
I use something, but I think we
There's
all use it.
WP Fast Cache, there's WP Super Cache, there's W3 Total Cache. There's a
Ooh.
bunch of them. I honestly could not recommend which one is best because I have not used them all. I've used WP Super Cache before.
I think that's what I use.
I don't really have any major
No opinion.
to say about it. I mean, it does what it does.
Right? And so it's interesting. It is something important to have. And yeah, I usually go for when adding a plugin, depending, make sure it's compatible with your theme. And number two, look at how many people are downloading it in the star reviews, right? Always a good idea. Always. Okay, so I like that. I like that. We're on number 6. It says used hardened passwords. What are you talking about? Hardened passwords.
You know what that means, don't you?
No, I don't know. What's a soft password?
Hardened passwords, just passwords that are stronger, harder to for people to break into. Like use capitals, capital letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols.
So going for on WordPress, they can make passwords for you, right?
They can. I mean, they're very cryptic. Most people would want to try to use something that they know. Like if you decide every time I do passwords, I'm going to use an @ symbol or an exclamation at the end or something like that. Because you can still use combinations of words and numbers, but knowing that you always use a certain character additionally, either in the middle or in the end, will help you remember first off your password.
Right.
But it'd be a little bit harder to guess.
It's true. It's true. So Grim is saying password 123. Okay, people do not use that. She is laughing because it's funny. Passwords are important. We will use a phrase and then numbers and other things in between and on in the phrase, so it's easier to remember. Plus, it's harder to break apart like a English phrase. Anyway, Grim is laughing her butt off. And okay, we are on number 7. So use special passwords, guys. Number 7, no admin username. That is as good as the password 123.
Yeah, so along the similar lines of the hardened passwords is the most common username always with WordPress sites was admin, because admin was the default admin user that gets created. So one of the big things to keep your site secure is to remove the admin username so that it is not an option for hackers to try to fill in that username and then try passwords for it. Because the other thing is, like, if hackers don't know your username, they're never gonna, they have to guess your username first to be able to try to guess a password. So getting rid of that admin user is a big one for keeping the site secure.
What about, here's a interesting question. What about, so when you sign in to WordPress, you often go /WP admin, right? Could you take out that WP and just add admin?
There are certain combinations you can't use. I'm not completely sure about that one, but with a good security plugin, for instance, the one I use, iTheme Security, you can customize your admin login, which is something I will do with certain sites if they constantly get hack attempts.
Smart.
So
Smart
we'll
move.
go in and we'll actually change where the admin login is. So instead of like WP-admin, we change it to my-admin. And by changing it to have to go there, then all that default WP-admin you can't get to anymore.
That's kind of good. That's kind of good.
Yeah.
Okay, and so number 8, guys, we're a little bit over time, but that's okay. And Grim, I so appreciate you being here to contribute. It's awesome. So keep software updated. Now, I tell my clients this all the time: plugins, backups, core updates. Now, Greg, why are we keeping things up to date?
Well, because most of the time things get updated because of one, either new features, or two, to patch vulnerabilities. So, and the vulnerabilities in software is a lot of the times what is exploited and allows people to take control of a site and do damage. So by keeping all of your software up to date, you're limiting that risk.
Once you've been hacked, this stuff will be really important to you because it is such a pain in the butt to fix things, to be stressed out, to lose business because your website is no longer up. I mean, they're saying nowadays that you need a website if you're in business. So, Grim, oh, look, Grim is saying her site is acting up. Has it been updated? Right. There was a core update for WordPress a couple months ago, or sorry, like a couple weeks ago, right?
We're up to 5.2.2 right now.
Right. So every year, guys, if you're on WordPress, there's like little mini updates throughout the year. There's some bigger updates at the beginning of the year, I think. Always good to update. I wish my clients would.
I'm not sure about Grim, but WordPress has an auto update option, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't know if she is, but I'm always wary that because I like to make sure that the new version is not going to mess up the site at all, right? So, and also when you jump a major version, I never want to install, like when we went to 5.0, I didn't update any of my sites to 5.0 until we got to 5.0.1 or, because there's always some type of additional change or update to the software, because you can only test so much in beta. Like once it goes into the real world, that's when you see all test cases, and typically within a day or two there's always that 0.1 release. So just wait, never do it right away. Always wait for a 0.1 or 0.2 release to do those updates.
Interesting. I would also say back up your files before you do an update. Because sometimes things break, sometimes your plugins aren't compatible. That's why you wait a little bit, right, Greg? Right.
Back up the files and the database.
Yes. So lots of things to do with website. It's, we mainly work on WordPress, you and I. Shopify, I think, does its own updates. Not sure about Wix or Square, but if you use those things, this conversation is still pretty relevant, I find. Grim has not set up updates through Magweep. Interesting. Okay, guys, so Greg, thank you, because I appreciate having this conversation, because this is, building your own site, being an entrepreneur, not having the money, but having the time. These are things we need to learn about our websites, right? These are things we need to figure out. And if you're doing it on your own and you need support, Grim and Greg both offer different services, but help people in managing and understanding this stuff. And this is basic stuff that if you want to do websites, sell websites, or you have a website, you need to know, you need to be at least educated to know what your web person is doing. And if you need a web person, I think Greg's perfect. And Grim. Mona's joined us. Gosh, I love Mona. I wish...
Everything, Mona.
Yeah, Mona, where you been? Mona's working on her new business, I think. Mona, tell us Mona manages her own website stuff, so she might know a lot of this, right? But we're out of time. Greg, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say I helped Mona with one of her clients move to an SSL. Maybe close to a year back. But they had it was funny because I hadn't worked on a static website for years. And they have a static website. It's all just like straight HTML. And she wanted to move them to an SSL, so I helped get the SSL running on all of the static pages and switched the htaccess file so it all loaded for them.
Interesting, right? Well, maybe we'll go back to those hard-coded sites like we once... From the 80s, people. That's from the 80s, I think. Mona, you might want to talk to your boss. Mona's saying gang. I love that she says gang. Yeah, we're the gang, and we're glad you're here. Okay, but now we're out of here. So next week, We're talking about one of my favorite topics. I know you guys are going to be stoked about this, but we're talking about what to expect from your AdWords manager. Greg and I both manage AdWords accounts. If you want to learn AdWords or you have questions about AdWords, I'm going to do a post really soon so we can get those questions in. But it's really fun, and we hope you come next week. We're over time, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I talk a lot sometimes.
Right. Well, this is an important topic, and I have to say, I have to go to work. I know you have to go to work. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Join us next week. If you have opinions, thoughts, concerns, share them with us, and we'll come back and answer all these things. Mona's saying he did a great job for me. Yeah, Greg, woo! So that Mona, 5-star review on Facebook or Google.
I think I already got one.
Oh, did you? Nice. On both channels?
No.
Oh. Right, those reviews are good. I will say, just a side note, if you go into your Google My Business, tip of the week, guys, there should be, for some accounts, you have the automatic copy so that people can leave you reviews. You can actually, they've given you a link now, which was really hard to find before, so people can directly give you Google reviews. Anyway, that's my tip. We'll see you guys next week. Okay, bye.
Bye, Ron.
Don't get captured. Greg, don't get captured.
Oh, make good choices.
Right, bye.